It's their G20 meeting and saying we need to phase it out, devalue it, go to SDRs as an above country currency, bank to bank, and then they'll control all the different currencies of the world so they can engage in more insider trading, more consolidation of wealth criminally with their insider knowledge and control, their regulatory control. The Madoff type, Ken Lay type criminals running the global regulatory system that has now already been built but now being unveiled, they are killing it. Meanwhile, our media tells us the Arabs are killing it when the Russians, the Chinese, the Arabs are saying, we all hold trillions of your dollars. Why are you ripping us off? Why are you devaluing this when you asked us to buy it? And the United States admits, the last White House and the new one admits they're running Jundilla that's blowing up military bases and police stations to get the Iranians to attack back. They admit they're escalating the war in Pakistan and Afghanistan to elicit real resistance, which they're then going to call terrorism, used to launch a wider war and domestically crack down on the population. So for people to see an accurate map and tell me if you agree, don't see the world as nations. We now have these global corporations that control the UN and the central banks, and they are playing nations and groups off against each other to consolidate the power.
Well said. I agree with everything that you said. And that's precisely what's going on. And what the American people have to understand is that as the dollar devalues, and of course this trend has been going on for a long time, as I mentioned when they talk about Dow 10,000, well, when you went back to 1999, since that time, well, you could buy a euro, for example, for 95 cents. Now it's going to cost you $1.50. And back then you could buy an ounce of gold for $280.
So you're saying the stock market's really down. We're just buying it with devalued dollars, so it looks like it's more.
Exactly. An ounce of gold now, of course, costs what? $1,060.
Yes.
So what the people are doing is they're lowering the standard of living for everyone. The gap between the 1% owning more of assets has never been higher in the 20th century than it is now. So they're pushing everybody down into poverty as the money is going up to the top to the very few. And about the jobless recovery that we talk about, 72% of our GDP is consumer-based. Again, we saw the numbers coming out today. The unemployment rate continues to rise, the amount of new people looking for unemployment. A jobless recovery is like being almost pregnant. You can't, it doesn't happen. There's no such thing. And when you go back to the last depression, you read the history of it, they were doing the same kind of jive talk back then. They would rush the market up, they sucker the people into it, the market would collapse, and they would talk about the recovery being just around the corner.
And that yo-yo went on for 3 years until they admitted we were really in a big depression. How long will the yo-yoing go in your opinion?
Well, it will continue for probably. We think the real numbers are going to come out in December when this Christmas retail sales are a bust. So when by the second quarter around March, when reality hits, February, March, as it did this year when the markets collapsed, they can't hide it anymore. But what happens is, what we're concerned about, again, it's either false flag or real. They're going to divert the people's attention, and we're saying Terror 2010. So they keep playing the yo-yo by throwing new games into the mix. So they'll have the people's attention diverted. Look what happened. People forget, Alex, that before 9/11, how unpopular George Bush was. And then they got this guy that couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag who's going to tell everybody he's going to hunt down Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. The whole nation followed him after 9/11. The same kind of scenario could happen now.
Well, that's what the Rand Corporation's saying, that they need a big war to get their new world order. Gerald, I want to shift back to an earlier subject. How do you see the rebellion against this manifesting? You called it taxpayer rebellions, demonstrations, rallies 2 years ago, getting bigger and bigger. You predicted the term jobless recovery a year and a half ago. I mean, I want to ask you, Gerald, how did you specifically even pick the bogus term? I mean, how did you know they were going to come up with that? Or did you see?
They play with that term from time to time. Every time they get into trouble over the past, they play out these terms. And what they do is they do it to divert people's attention. Alex, I want to make this 100% clear. The jobs that are gone forever. They're not coming back. They've shipped our production overseas. You look around. Go anywhere you want to go. Where are their jobs? Hey, you want a job at a checkout counter at 7-Eleven? You want a wonderful position as a home health care? How about working in a nursing home? There's going to be plenty of jobs for you. They're dumbing down the society. The jobs that are left are among the worst. And when you look, when there's only job creation, where is it? Well, it's in government jobs. It's in home health care. It's in the hospitality sector. And that's not even going to happen anymore. So the jobs that are gone for good.
Stay there, because I want to ask you next. More police, more tickets, more fines, more fees, more taxes. How do they squeeze more blood out of the population?
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Gerald Celente, the Republic is fading into history. We've been fully conquered by offshore banks. They, in their own documents, admit they create economic implosions so they can consolidate wealth. They think their police state can protect them from the people so they can carry out this crime. But you have said repeatedly and broken down the fact that history shows it's not going to go that way. Break down in summary, please, sir, how you see this then unfolding in a chain of events. What are the taxpayer revolts going to turn into as the system squeezes and squeezes and squeezes?
Well, we already have state and local governments over $200 billion in the red. And they're going to keep asking people for more and more taxes. Right here in Kingston, New York, word just came out. I don't know how true it is or not. Someone just called me today that they're going to look for a 10% increase in taxes. So we're organizing our own local tax revolts right here. And this is going to go on all over the country. As you know, my saying as a Bronx boy, when people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And people are now looking at government as the enemy, more so than ever before. So the tax protests we see are going to be the catalyst that drives the nation into the second revolution. We're in it already. The media is denying it, and as you know, they're attributing these protests, etc., to right-wing fringe elements and conservative nuts. That's the way, they like to paint it. It has nothing to do with that. These are people that are fed up and they have nothing to lose. So we're going to see it manifest itself again with the tax revolts. Then the winter comes. And around much of the country, people are going to be unable to afford to buy home heating fuel or gas. They're not going to be, you're going to start seeing, particularly among the elderly. Now, we have to understand why are oil prices going up so high? Well, it has less to do with demand and more to do, going back again, to the devaluation of the dollar. Oil, as everyone knows, is petrodollars. And with the dollar losing value, oil prices keep going up. So that's what we're going to see. Now, I want to throw one other thing on here as well. We saw Obama come out and tell the elderly that because of the cost of living index has gone down and remained flat, that they're going to give them $250 each to help them along. Well, $250, as we all know in the real world, is chump change, not worth anything. It's going to cost the government about $13 billion. Aren't they generous with the elderly? $13 billion is what we, the people, gave to the Goldman Sachs gang to cover their losses that they took on bad bets with AIG. What an insult to the American people. And this is where the the inflammation is going to start rising. It's going to be off with their heads before they know it. They're so out of touch with what's going on in the street that they think they could chum the people with let them eat cake, $250 payoff. So that's how we see this thing playing out. We're going to see more and more people turning against the government, and what we're hoping, not hoping, what we're suggesting is that this revolution cannot be hijacked by violence, because if it does, we lose.